Guys, today's lesson is solving one-step and two-step equations. We will start in your Unit 1 packet on page 11, so please get there now. All right, so the first thing we have is a set of vocabulary. We have a variable, which is an unknown quantity that represents a number in an expression or an equation. So a variable is a letter, like X, Y, Z, A, B. Can you guys get the hint? So in this equation above, X would be the variable. I can just draw a little line like that. And it's also on this side too. Okay, a coefficient is a positive or a negative number multiplied to a variable, usually found in front of the variable. So that's what this is. The number 2 is the coefficient of 2x. So 2 is the number in front of the variable. The third term says a constant is a number that is either added or subtracted or stands alone in an expression or an equation. So the number 8 is a constant. It is a number that happens to be added in this equation. Okay, an expression is made up of constants, variables, and does not have an equal sign. So if we only look at this part right here on this side, that's what we would call an expression. And then an equation is made up of constants and variables, and it has an equal sign to show the left side is equivalent to the right side. So this entire thing is called an equation. And finally, terms. Terms can be a variable. Terms can be a constant. Terms can be a combination of both and are separated by plus signs and minus sign. So here's a term. 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 And here's a term. So how many terms did I list? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is 6 terms. They're separated by plus signs and minus signs. Next thing says underline each term, circle each constant, highlight the coefficient. So let's do underline each term. 1, 2, 3. 3 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, 4 terms. We will circle the constant, a number that stands alone. So there's only 2 constants out of all of these terms. Only 2 of them are a constant, just a number by itself. Highlight the coefficients. So I'm going to use yellow for highlighting. So here's a coefficient. Here's a coefficient. Remember, a coefficient sits in front of a variable. It could be a positive number or a negative. So in this case, it's a -4 right there, -5, a +2, a +4, a -2 coefficient. At any time, press pause or press stop and rewind if you didn't understand what I said. Hearing it again will help. Let's move on to solving a one-step equation. One-step equations means you do something and end up with the problem. So we have 4 operations: add, subtract, divide, and multiply. So if you add, that's one step. If you subtract, that's one step. If you divide, that's one step. If you multiply, that's one step. The word inverse means you are performing the opposite operation in regards to the most important part, the variable. So the opposite of adding is subtracting, which makes the opposite of subtracting to be adding. Also, the opposite of multiplication is division, which means the opposite of division is multiplication. We can go together. Add and subtract, go together. Multiply and divide, go together. Let's look at Coach Hughes on her Sea-Doo. Another name for a jet ski is a Sea-Doo. In one-step equations, we're going to identify the operation, add, subtract, divide, or multiply, that you see between the variable and the constant, and then you're going to do the opposite, called the inverse. And this is Coach Hughes in the middle of the ocean, right off of Florida. And that was so much fun. Okay, the solution to an equation is the value that when you substitute it for the variable, makes the equation true. And then it says use Desmos to check your answer. So let's pull up a Desmos screen. And we will use that side by side here. Here we go. Work with the teacher, try it on your own. Here we go. Work with the teacher. Here's example 1. What do I see? I'm looking for the variable and the constant. There it is. I see adding 5. So I wrote that. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to subtract 5. What you do to the left, you do to the right. Bring down x. This says that a positive 5 minus 5 is 0. 30 minus 5 is equal to 25. How do we check our work? X plus 5 equals 30. We got 25 as our x. So is 25 plus 5 equal to 30? That's what we want to check in Desmos. Is 25 plus 5 equal to 30? And it is. We got it right. What we see, we will do opposite, because I like to ride Sea-Doos in the ocean off of Florida. Let's do example 2. What do we see? Here is our variable and our constant. We're looking at the side of the variable. Left side. I see A minusing 10 or A subtracting 10. So what I see is subtracting 10. What I will do is the opposite. I will add 10. So now let's do that. I'm going to add 10 to the left. I also have to add 10 to the right. Bring down your variable. 10 and a negative 10 make 0, and 12 and a positive 10 make 22. Now check your work on Desmos. A minus 10 equals 12. Is 22 minus 10 equal to 12? Yes, it does. We got it right. Yes. Moving on to example 3. I am looking at the side with the variable. This is the side with the variable. What I see is multiplication. Because a number 5 next to a letter K means multiplication. I will do the opposite. I will divide by 5. And now we're going to actually do it. Remember, divide, you put a fraction. We do not put divide like this. That is middle school. We don't do that. 5 divided by 5 is 1, but we don't want to write the 1. Too much writing. We'll just put K. 35 divided by 5 is 7. Check our work. Is 5 times 7 equal to 30? 5, go to Desmos, check your work. Is 5 times 7 equal to 35? Yes. Last one. What do you see? I see the variable on the left side. What are you seeing? I'm seeing B is dividing by a -3. So I see divide by -3, but what we do is the opposite. What we do is multiply by -3. We don't multiply by a +3. We have to multiply by whatever it tells me to do it. It didn't tell me +3, it told me -3. The opposite of divide is multiply. We don't take the opposite of the number. We take the opposite operation. Here we go. So I'm going to times this side by -3. I'm going to times that side by -3. That gives me B equals -30. And then we're going to check our work. Put the -30 back in place of the B right there. Is -30 divided by a -3 equal to a +10? Is -30 divided by -3? Yes, it's equal to a +10. There you go. Solving a one-step equation. What do you see? Write that down. Then you do the opposite. All right. Press pause, take the next minute, and work the 4 problems that you are supposed to try on your own. All right, now that I'm back, please check your answers from example 1, 2, 3, and 4. Example 1's you try is x equals -8. Example 2 is t equals 6. Example 3 is x equals -7. Example 4 is m equals -14. Moving on to two-step equations. Two-step equations have 2 steps. You're going to do something first, you're going to do something second, and there is a specific order. So step 1 is called step 1 because it's the step 1. You're either going to add or you're going to subtract the constant. Step 2, you're either going to multiply or you're going to divide by the coefficient. Let's take a closer look at what that means. First, I'm going to identify the side with the variable. Here's the side with the variable. Step 1 is what do you see with the constant? I see adding 8. All right, that's what I see. So what will I do? I'm going to do the opposite. Subtract 8. All right. Again, what do you see? I see 3 times x. I see multiply by 3. But what will you do? You won't do multiply, you will do divide by 3. So x equals 2/3. Who would have thought? So to check your answer, you substitute in 2/3 back into the equation. 3 times 2/3 plus 8. Does that give me 10? 3 times 2/3 plus 8. Does that give me 10? 3 times 2/3 plus 8. Does that give me 10? Yes, it does. Thank you very much. Moving on to number 2. First, you want to identify the side of the variable. Here is the variable a, so it's on the right side. Step 1 is always, is the constant adding or subtracting? I see subtract 10. What will I do? I will add 10. Okay, let's do it. Let's add 10. That gives me -12 plus 10 is -2. That makes 0. You have a divided by 4. Let's do step 2. What do you see? I see divide by 4. What will you do? You will multiply by 4. Let's do it. Multiply that by 4. Multiply that by 4. -8 equals a. Cool. Let's check our work. Does -12 equal -8 divided by 4 minus 10? -8 divided by 4 minus 10. -8 divided by 4 minus 10 does equal -12. We were right. Moving on. What do you see? What do you do? So this question, I don't see a constant, okay? I see a -4 multiplying to x. I see it divided by 3. So I don't see anything that's being added or subtracted. So in this case, I don't see a constant, so I'm not going to do anything about it. I see a -4 divided by 3 being multiplied to x. So I see -4 divided by 3 multiplied to x. And here we have a special case. We're going to use the reciprocal, which means we're going to flip the fraction and multiply again. So this is the one example where we don't do the opposite. So I'm going to multiply by 3 over -4. Three and 3 divided by each other makes 1. -4 and -4 divided by each other makes 1. 10 times 3 is 30. 30 divided by -4. I don't know. Well, that's the answer. 30 divided by -4. You could also say 15 divided by -2. Depends on what you want to do. This is the most simplified. Okay, and number 4 says twice the number d decreased by 17 is equal to 5. Here we go. Twice the number d. So 2d decreased by 17. Decreased by 17 is equal to 5. Okay, what do we see? Subtract 17. What do we do? Add 7. Oops, add 17. What do you see? 2 times d. What do you do? Divide by 2. And there you have it, guys. Solving two-step equations. Add or subtract the constant, multiply or divide by the coefficient. Your turn now to try the 4 you try problems.